Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. Teaching internationally is one of the best decisions you can make as an educator. In this show, we will meet teachers and administrators from around the globe living and working internationally. Our hope is that their stories and experiences will inspire you to explore the world of education. We will learn about all aspects of international teaching, from becoming an international teacher to what countries are the best fit for you, to the challenges of being away from your home country. Come take this unforgettable journey to the world of international schools with Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric.
All right, welcome to Global Take. My name is Jim Ellis. I'll be your host this episode from Vienna, Austria. I'm broadcasting from my classroom at a living, functioning school full of kids, half full of kids actually. And this episode will bring us back closer to Europe. Last week, we were being hosted from the Philippines and spread around Central America and Asia. And I can't wait to introduce you to this wonderful panel that I have for you right now as we discuss what is it that are our hopes and dreams for international schools. My first guest is Nancy Lhoest. I can't wait to say and hear from you, but what I want to say first before you introduce yourself is I think I had to have you on this panel as I guest host today, the show, thanks to SchoolRubric and Global Take and Nick DeForest and Ryan and the crew. I think what I have to say first is that when I met you in Luxembourg in person, which isn't normal these days, how you meet people, I suppose, I introduced myself to you that I was going to present at a conference for Elmley, and it was on your campus, and I think it was the night before, and I didn't know what to do or where to go in the city, and so I was already there, and I said, is there anything I can do? And you said, well, yeah, actually, and you gave me like a huge list of things to do, just a ton of stuff, but it was this instant you're one of us feelings that you've never let go from anything I've ever seen you do. Everything you've done online or in person is inviting and bringing people into such an important community where we meet and gather and join up our ideas and our thoughts and our hopes. Nancy, you do that exceptionally well. So it's always been that way. So, thank you for that. And why don't you introduce yourself to the audience briefly?
Well, thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm so excited, like I'm about to bust. You have no idea. This is like amazing for me. I am at the International School of Luxembourg, and I've been there for 30 years. So I don't have a traditional road of international school journey, but it is my home, and it's something that I just love. To me, it's like one big family. And I am head of community relations. So my real job is really promoting the school, working with new families, and really keeping the engagement with not only our internal community, but our external community. So it's a thrill. I just get to talk about the school all day.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see you do it at the end. You are our school spotlight. Who knew that Luxembourg had a school? I'm sure some people don't, honestly. So this is your stage a little bit later on. Ryan, you and I have never met in person, but I think, I'm going to be teaching a design class here in about 50 minutes. And after having only met you 3 or 4 times and kind of read through your tweets and kind of watch how you do what you do, you are the model of what I need to become as a teacher. And it's the openness and it's the frank and earnestness that you bring to your students and saying, this is our experiment together. You're not the head of the class who's saying, this is what I want you to know, so figure it out by the time the test comes. You are the true experimentalist. And then you are willing to do that with other teachers. The first time I met you, it was that was your jam. You were saying, hey guys, I'm playing around with stuff. What do you think? And that open vibe that you can bring to any conversation, any of your posts online, and your willingness to learn is who I want to become. So you're here today because of the model you bring to me, and I'll be thinking about as I teach design in about 15 minutes. So Ryan, you're out in Amman right now. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm a design teacher here in Amman. I got here by way of Ghana for 5 years before we came here, and I kind of talked my way into becoming a design teacher. And I love it. I went from being a social studies teacher to a tech coach to a STEAM, robotics, all kinds of different stuff teacher. And then finally I talked them into letting me design some courses. And so it's fantastic. And I do love designing it alongside the kids. You know, I'm constantly like, all right, here's what we're doing. What do you guys think? And how can we make it better? So it's fun. It keeps me on my toes, and it keeps things interesting.
Great. I know this next half hour will be like that as well, too. There's no doubt that we'll get an earnest and frank answer from you. Mike, you are a sage in this international community. You're well known. And every time I've been around you, and I think I met you at an Elmley leadership retreat, the European League of Middle-Level Educators, and you could just put on a show. And I want to say, I think that there might have been a bit of friendly competition. We were both presenting at this conference. I think you went first. I'm like, okay, this is the game, Mike Scott. No problem, no problem. And I came up, I did my thing. It was pretty good. And then you hit this other gear and kind of finished off. I remember it was like in this corner of this room. It was near the end of the day at this session, and everyone just sort of gravitated to you and was just in awe of what you can bring when you switch into that other gear. And it's a real pleasure to know you personally, but also to know that there are people like you in the international community scene that will help make us a vibrant community for a really long time. Why don't you introduce yourself, Mike?
Well, Jim, I don't know how to follow that up. I absolutely, when it becomes, that's why I love doing that kind of thing, because individually we become we. So I'm at Frankfurt International School, moved here during a pandemic, which has been interesting. Been overseas for 20 years in Mexico, Russia, Qatar, Singapore, Guatemala, and now Germany. So really looking forward to this discussion. And to sum myself up, I just believe schools have such higher purpose to create the future that we wish to see. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and jump into that conversation. I've set up some topics for us, and let's see what we can do with that. Let's roll the first one.
Hopes and dreams for international schools. What do we need to leave behind?
All right. And, you know, development always means that something stays behind. You got to leave it by the side of the road and move on. I think this is the hard question for us to deal with, because international schools are so darn positive about always doing everything to the best of our abilities that it's hard to talk about moving beyond a certain point. My school here in Vienna, we've had some really frank conversations about that this year. It's been important, it's been real, and we're moving forward. And that's a great feeling to be able to do that. So let's get that first dose of some reality here. Nancy, do you have any thoughts about what it is that you're ready to see us leave behind, or maybe is already being left behind?
I think that's a better way of putting it, because leaving behind doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. So the first thought is, when looking at discussions with virtual learning, was the idea of the traditional teacher, the role of the teacher. We're an IGCSE school, and it seemed like the teacher always had to be this fountain of knowledge, the giver of knowledge, just being able to just fill up the child's mind. And now, rather than being like a deliverer of knowledge, the teacher, and we're getting rid of that model, that traditional model, and now the teacher is an enabler of learning, setting up the environment, being a facilitator. So I find that really exciting. So yes, we're letting it go, but we're moving towards something that is really looking more holistically and in developing more of a skill set and disposition of the kids, rather than just filling them up with whatever content that we feel that traditionally we thought we had to do. So I kind of see that as a good thing that we're leaving behind, and we're evolving to another role in terms of not just being a facilitator of learning, but even another question is their role as being caregivers. It's just, we're just letting go of that traditional model of a teacher.
You know what, we are. I've been in a lot of conversations over the last 15 years internationally, and they've really shifted to how could we do this to how are we doing it? And it is that true transition that we're in right now. All right, Ryan, what do you have to say on this? What do you want to leave behind? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I'm going to just kind of jump right in and follow up with what Nancy just said. I totally agree with that. I'm drifting from what I was going to say, but that's where I've been as a teacher. I got into teaching design, and I don't have a background in design, but I love it. And so through teaching robotics and coding and all those sorts of things, I'm figuring out as I go along. And a big part of it is sitting down next to a kid and being like, I don't know, let's figure it out. And so helping other teachers see that that's okay. It's okay not to know what's going on. The other thing I want to add that is just this idea of what success and engagement looks like for students. We've got kids that started this year and only came on campus for 2 weeks and didn't meet many kids. And then here we are at the end of the year. And, what does their success look like? Are they as engaged as kids who knew each other at the beginning? And just a quick story, we have a kid that fits that mold. And last week we started putting together a middle school band for a Scorpion Idol thing. And a girl showed up who I had only met in person maybe once or twice, and she's playing guitar. She never shows up in my class. She never shows up in any classes except for her guitar class. But she was invited to come be a part of this band that we're putting together to perform for people. And that's what she needs. And that's success and that's engagement for her. If she's not doing science and design right now or math, we'll figure that out as we go along. But figuring out how to get those kids into the community and feeling a part of things, what is that success?
When you say community and international schools, that's a real thing. And the ability to think flexibly for her is great. But did you say Scorpion tribute band?
Scorpion Idol. So our guitar teacher here set it up as there was a little competition. Some kids did some singing. It's all been virtual online, but we got permission to get about 6 or 8 kids together and have a band and do the finals as a live stream. So
that's fantastic. Send me that link. Put it on Twitter, man. I want to watch. All right, Mike. Let's bring home some knowledge here on this. What do we leave behind?
Yeah, I thought Ryan was going to break into winds of change, but not yet. So I really, I want to dial it back a little bit about leaving things behind, because we're just going through strategic planning right now for our rolling yearly strategic plan. And so much is about the to-don't list, because we know a bunch of things that we need to do, but we got to give some things up in order to make space to do it, because we just can't ask kids to do more things. So to give a specific example, I'd say, what do we need to leave behind? We need to leave behind a high percentage of kids' days where they're learning about things. We need to flip that script where they are doing things, and they are doing things and learning along the way rather than just learning about things. And I think when you have that explicit conversation, the things bubble to the surface. You know what? Maybe this isn't so high leverage. We shouldn't really spend that much time doing this kind of thing anymore.
I would agree with that. Agree with you there. I think all of us are of the same mind to some degree. I wonder what that means in terms of teacher training, though. There's a lot of people that have been in this profession for a long time. We know, I am one myself. We know a lot about how to get the job done right when it comes to the traditional model. Do any of you guys have any thoughts on that? Like, what is the next step? Where's the training coming from? What are we going to do about that? How do we bring a group of 100 teachers there?
I would. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
No, sorry. No, I was thinking of what we want from our students should be what we want for the future teachers in terms of developing the mindset, the dispositions to be learners, to have that curiosity. Because the what is, we want them to always think about how they're teaching. So again, I remember the question that we started with was what we want to get rid of. And one of the things I had written was curriculum. And it was exactly what Mike said. Like, let's start looking at how do we get it personalized? How do we make kids to be entrepreneurs? But then how do we get them to have that ability to be flexible? Well, teachers as well. So it's not just showing them the content, but it's actually showing them how do we develop their mindset, their dispositions to be agile, to be flexible. Look at what teachers went through this past year. They were really agile. I mean, boom, in 24 hours in Luxembourg, we were told, you are now virtual. And we were like, okay, what does that mean? And to look at the success, I'm just saying teachers all over the world, and I know Luxembourg, they've been amazing, their flexibility. But that now needs to be intentional in how teachers are being trained. So sorry, Mike, I don't know if I took away some things that you were...
No, you enhanced my thinking.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. To be honest, very briefly, why would teachers be any different from students that we know how learning works? So this is a learning journey for every teacher individually. And instead of, big PD programs that flush everybody through the same experience, why would the adults be any different from the students? It's a journey of coaching and mentoring and experiences that change that mental model, because unless you actually see the spark in a student when the student's leading it and you're stepping aside and you're playing more of a coach role rather than the sage on the stage, why would you know it's better?
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. I could talk about this stuff for hours. I'm trying to narrow down my thoughts, all this is so good. I think some of it too is like helping teachers take the ego out of it, right? Like It's not about me. The teaching isn't about me. And if a kid doesn't get something, it's not because I did it wrong, or maybe it is, and that's okay, right? Like, how do I make sure that I'm not worried about like, well, these guys aren't getting it because they're not doing this right, and turn it into what can I do to help them figure it out? What can I do to offer them those opportunities? And I think that, a lot of that comes from the support from the top and changing the way that school is looked at in general. I loved what you said about like getting rid of curriculum. I'm a dreamer. I could go on forever about that.
I hope no one sends me bad emails. I'm going to get bad tweets now about what Nancy said.
I'm sure only curriculum directors happen to be watching right now at this point.
No, you guys know what I meant. Who was ever out there in Twitter land?
Yeah, I'll kind of wrap this one up with just to play off of what Ryan said, and then we'll go on to the next topic. I think Dan Cowan, the middle school principal at FIS, who works with you, Mike, went into such detail. I was getting a tour there. I worked on your campus for a few days. I was helping out as a consultant. And he said something really interesting to me, and that was how we had designed the design studios meant that the relationships between teachers and even the janitorial staff had to change in order to get past a certain point. It was what Ryan was kind of getting at. A rethinking of the structures with which we have now is a piece of how we kind of bring people along. So the old structures have to go, the old way of thinking, maybe old curricular models. And let's move to our next topic where we really push forward and see what we can do.
Hopes and dreams for international schools. What do we take with us into the future?
All right, so I'm going to bounce to Ryan on this one in a moment, but there are a lot of hopes and dreams in international schools. A lot of it has to do with the types of people that we teach, the way in which we're governed, our financing. But dreaming is a big piece of being in international schools, and a dreamer of sorts myself, and I think all three of you guys are as well. I have to say that this is going to be our easiest question to think, or next two are, what are we taking with us that we love? And for me, it's easily the community that we bring. And that's an easy one. So I'm going to steal that one from you guys. And then I'm going to go to Ryan and see, like, as we move forward, like, what do you feel we need to maintain? What are we taking with us?
So yeah, I kind of looked at this one from the perspective of this past year, what has happened in this past year. And I think Nancy nailed that one again, is the flexibility. And whether it's the flexibility of learning new skills as teachers, or just the scheduling and the way school has looked over this past year, I think that's the main thing. Kids, my own kids at home loved the self-paced work. You log into a class, you get an assignment, then you go do it on your own. My daughter is in elementary school, and she's constantly just making stuff throughout every single day. So she's engaging with class and learning, and taking that learning in, maybe not like consciously or on the top, but she's making, whether it's painting or Legos or whatever, she's always doing something. And that part of the learning, I think, is just as much, just as important as anything else. They're managing their time, they're doing their own thing, they're figuring out what's important to them. And that's been amazing for me.
That's a brave statement, because as we do go back to normal, we're going to have to think, how do we maintain that? And it's going to require some seriously hard work to make that happen. But I love that you can say that it's here now, it's a part of us, and it needs to be packed in and brought with us. Mike, what do you have to say?
Yeah, we had some very similar experiences for sure, Ryan. And I would say I can take a bit of a different vein on this. What do we need to take with us? What we've known for a long time, that rock solid literacy and rock solid numeracy of foundational communication and thinking and connectedness needs to continue in amazing ways, because I'm never an either or guy. I'm always a yes and I struggle a little bit in conversations when people say, hey, yeah, know what? We're concentrating on literacy and numeracy right now, and we're going to do external assessment on this, and we're doing this. Okay, no, wait, now we're concentrating on some integrated projects and some interdisciplinary work and kid-led focused. It's like, well, yes, and you do it all. So you got to take that with you. You got to take it. We've learned a lot in education over the decades. So take the best. It's not going anywhere. We need it. So let's do it well and build upon it so that we can get to those independent experiences.
Love it. Thank you for that. And that's some hard truth, but it's real. I do teach math here as well. And if my kids don't have the skills necessary to do the cool things, they're not going to do it. And it's a matter of bringing the magic in with what we're already doing. And I love that. Nancy, go for it.
I would say exactly what we're doing right now. To continue this virtual collaboration. It's never been so powerful. You go, if you need any assistance, you need resources. I think the global connections now have never been so elevated. And when we are able to see each other and travel, I hope we continue with the hybrid form, because now I just think of how we are so connected in terms of when we need assistance. I could go on Twitter and say, listen, I need some help. I need a framework. And all of a sudden I will get 20 different schools from around the world send me something. I don't think I was elevated that resource before. And now this is considered, I would say, a silver lining of COVID. Though we are physically disconnected, virtually we have been elevated to really embrace all the international educators we have and just pick their brain. Like if I need something now, I'll be like design thinking, oh, I'll just go to gym now. Prior to this, I would have never done that. And guess what, Ryan and Mark, I'm now going to like hunt you down if I need help. I'll be like, wait a minute, I met this guy. And that's what I feel that we will hopefully bring to the future is this virtual collaboration. I'm not saying physical is bad because we still like that drinking after a conference, but the idea of still maintaining this type of connectedness and the core of sharing and being globally minded to be just keeping this relationship going.
It's beautiful. I really do love that. When I first got into international schools, I couldn't tell you how much of being on an island I thought I was, 15 years ago. And now I don't feel alone anymore. Where in my home city, I would have had any number of schools and resources to be able to get to, and I just didn't. All right, let's jump to the next topic, guys. Let's see what's next.
What is the next urgent development for our international school community?
All right, this one's going to go to Mike in a moment, but I have to say urgency to me. I'm going to try to set this up just a little bit. I'm going to say the teacher as a leader is an enormous deal. This is actually something Nancy and I are working on together in a piece of Why I Know You. This is called the MLC. It's a certificate thing that you can do with ecis.org. And as I've been designing it a lot lately, I've been trying to think not about who are the teachers now and how do they lead right now. I've really had to design my course with the model in mind of what are we going to become that we are not yet as a school, and prepare to train teacher leaders for just that very thing. And I know Nancy feels the same way about her MLC course as well. And she's pushing forward as fast as she can with as much purpose. And it's hard to do. And, to wrap my mind around it, it took me a lot of effort to say, what are we not now that I want to develop? And Mike, that's an enormous piece of what you do at FIS. So tell me a little bit about that. Like what's next?
Yeah, at FIS, we're working really hard. In fact, what you just mentioned, we're putting together for those experiences to cultivate leadership and to cultivate the things across the board for everybody that we need to create the school of the future. So I concur 100%. What's really urgent to develop? More authentic experiences. Don't just learn about the bike, ride the bike, right? Get it going. Make sure that we actually get the opportunity to do that kind of thing. And with the vision of what it is, if what we're doing isn't leading towards making a better future, we need to ask the question, well, why are we doing it then? If it's not something that's leading us towards better, then yeah, we can question that. But here at FIS, we have several examples where we're asking this question. And I love our strategic impacts. They're all pointed in the right direction. And like all other schools, we just have to decide what goes, what stays, what do we enhance? And that should be an ongoing process. Change is constant. Change does not happen and then it's over. It just keeps going. And schools need to do that.
Love it. I'm going to get caught up on a couple of comments. Thanks, Mo from Beirut, Nick in Vienna, Ryan, great. I'm glad you guys are part of the conversation. I'm glad you guys are loving it. And that's real. And if you want to follow not only anything School Rubric is doing on Twitter, I would also follow any teacher at FIS that you know, Frankfurt International School. They're trying to live it right now. And I was watching some boats trying to get launched through Twitter from some elementary classroom. Just recently, you probably saw it or clicked like on it yourself, Mike, but you guys are desperately trying to live the future, and I love it. Let's go to Nancy. What do you think?
Urgent, I would just looking at social and emotional well-being. We've always talked about it. We talked about it, but now it really is the core, and not just looking at our students and our staff and our parents. And we've always had it in the curriculum or somehow, some way, but now it has to be the core. In terms of we don't have the well-being of our stakeholders as a priority, then the learning will not occur. So how do we do that? I mean, I see schools now having like heads of well-being. That never existed 3 or 4 years ago, or even 5. So that to me is urgent, knowing where students are and where families are, and also make it sustainable and embedded in the culture of your school. Not one of those initiatives that just, what is the expression? The Christmas tree effect. A leader who kind of goes for the brightest light, and then once that light is gone, they go to another brightest light. This has to be a constant light and a focus that we ensure how well are we taking care of our community and ensuring that their mind and their body and even social emotional, that's all being taken care of. And we think about it, should be a high priority.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to jump that one. I'm going to pass it right on to Ryan. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to stack on top of both of those and say, those authentic experiences for well-being, and say that the most urgent thing right now for me is the diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, that DEI work, which I just learned today. Some people are calling it Jedi work, which is fantastic to me. You flip those letters around a little bit. But, international schools talk all the time about our diversity and where our kids are from, and we represent all these different cultures. But really taking the time to make sure that we are recognizing those different cultures other than on International Day or the Celebration of Cultures Day, and making sure that those students all feel welcome, and that, because that's part of their well-being as well. Are we celebrating those cultures in our curriculums, in our classrooms? Are we making those kids all feel safe, and the staff as well? I think that what's going on in our world and in my home country right now is so important, and that's where the future is. I don't think you can have the well-being and all those other things without addressing this diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for that, Ryan. And just kind of on a personal note there, I would, you don't look at my name and see Mexican American, but that's who I am. And I would have to say I've spent the last 10 years hiding and not wanting to be a person of color or have to deal with what that means, what it means to be from the borderlands of the United States and from, a family across 2 borders, essentially. It really hasn't been a piece that I felt like I could talk about until about the last year or so. And so to be myself more in my own school has been, for me personally, meaningful. Watching the well-being is urgent. And we know that from the last year, but it's always been urgent. And maybe we need to do a better job of it. And looking at what Mike had to say, it's like the transformation is now. That's why it's urgent, right, Mike?
Right.
This is not a yesterday question or maybe tomorrow. It's a right now thing in our classrooms. Guys, I'm going to give you 1 hot minute on our last topic. Let's go ahead and roll it.
What dream do you have that is far away from being realized?
Nancy, just take it away. What's way out there?
Way out there. I can't even think. I don't think anything's way out there, by the way. I think everyone has good intent. So I actually thought about what, Ryan and Mark kind of put together as well, is about systems and just looking holistically at the child. Ensuring that whatever we do, we're not looking at just the academic, we're just looking at the child of who or what she is, and ensuring that they're happy. And making that, I'm going to again use the word embedded in the culture of your school. And for me, that I don't think it's far off, but I don't want it to lose priority because we have another initiative coming up. So I'm really just going to keep on focusing on well-being and the whole child. It's boring, but it's the thing. It's like the core. It's the pillar. If you don't have that, everything else just falls down.
It's a great one, Nancy. Thanks so much. Ryan, go for it.
Yeah, my dream is, we talked a little bit about connections and how like these conversations are so great. I've always thought it would be awesome if international schools worked more to do like teacher exchanges. Give me the opportunity to come see how Jim's teaching his design class and him come see mine. You know, it's awesome to talk virtually, and Twitter has been amazing for me. But the opportunity to go and see something in action and see how other schools are doing it. Conferences are great, all that kind of stuff. But I think that time in a classroom and I mean, I don't know how that would work or if it would work, but you know, can we swap places for a week and I just see what's happening there? I don't know. I think that would be.
I love that idea. I love that idea. I think I had a colleague named Derek who said something like that to me maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He wanted to do a year away and a year back or something, but even just virtual or a full week or something, brilliant idea. Like, why not dream? All right, Mike, you got to follow that up.
Yeah, I love that. It's part of the reason we took a sabbatical year with our kids and world schooled and then got COVIDed halfway in between, which also brought other opportunities. But I'd say, here's my big dream. Every single stakeholder, and originally I was going to say every stakeholder that walks through the doors of the school, but that's not the dream. They don't even have to walk through, right? The school's the future. It's virtual. It's everywhere, right? So every stakeholder, parents, students, teachers, staff, understands the learning journey they're on. They own it, and they're able to articulate it and share that learning story. Just a small one.
I love it. That's fantastic. I'm going to throw a crazy dream at you guys, and then we've got to bounce off to a wonderful school spotlight from Nancy. I can't wait to see what you do with it. But take this, guys. This is kind of what I'm thinking. How do we invite the greater community within which all of our wonderful schools are set in? We have wonderful cities too. How do we broaden our reach into working with local teachers and inviting a more diverse and varied background part of our local schools into our school more regularly, whether that's tuition sometimes or events or co-learning experiences, but how do we become more a part of our local scenery? Hey guys, this has been fantastic. I can't tell you enough how much I enjoy talking with all of you. We'll wrap it up in a minute, but Nancy, you get 2 hot minutes to show off the International School of Luxembourg. Let's do a school spotlight, everybody. Let's see what we got.
Okay, let's see what.
It's time for School Spotlight on Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric. Let's learn more about the stories and information from schools around the world. What's your school story?
Oh, this is so exciting. So first I want to say moyen and vialzit. That is hello and how are you in Luxembourgish. As I already mentioned, I've been at the school for 30 years and I'm so excited that ISL is the spotlight. I first want to give a little brief overview of the school. It is located in the beautiful country of Luxembourg, which borders Belgium, France, and Germany. And the country is really small. There's only about, I should check this before, but I think it's about 625,000 people that live there. And the school is reaching 58 years old. And we're a medium to a small size school, about 1,370 students. And our nationalities are about 37. And our fabulous staff, and we have a big staff, we have about 234 staff members and 35 nationalities. Now, usually when you do a presentation like this, the next slide would always talk about like the campus. But I decided that I would do something a little bit different. So I am going to tell you that if you want to know more about our campus, you can go to our website. There's beautiful virtual tours. We are in the city of Luxembourg. We have a lower school, an upper school, libraries, design technology, food technology. We have all those wonderful things that you can find out about. But I decided that I would just focus on the quality of our relationships at ISL. Just a really quick story. Every time we have an accreditation visit, there has always been a common response throughout the years that when the visiting team walks through the door, they always have a sense of warmth. So it was kind of funny that Jim brought this up earlier, because we get this with our accreditation team as well. And we're really proud of the teacher-student relationships. I think our students are amazing. Our teachers their heart is so big. And that relationship is the core really to making kids feel safe and secure in their environment, but it actually goes beyond that. Our goal is to make people feel like they're cared about, like their family. So we do that with our parents, with partnerships, like what all schools do. But I like to think we take it a bit further in getting this type of engagement. And I think what's even more powerful is, and everyone talks about their staff, but our staff, I feel like that sense of family is so strong in times of celebrations and challenges. And it's so good. Like I said, I've been there for 30 years and I feel it, and my boys feel it. I mean, they call the school actually, it's like their second family. So both my boys graduated from ISL. So when I think about them at graduation, that's when, most of the time when you think about graduation and you see a slide with a girl wearing, a student wearing her cap and gown, the speaker would be talking about IB scores, universities, and awards. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to talk about the dispositions and mindset that ISL really strives to promote and develop. These three words, being inspired, being resilient, and being passionate, it doesn't summarize what we teach. It summarizes how we teach and how students learn. So we really want to have those opportunities that elevate our students' passions, and that they go into a situation with a skill set that they become agile and a problem solver. We want that idea that we enhance their passion. So yes, we could say our vision is for every child to get a 40-point diploma, but actually it comes down to, we want our graduates at ISL to feel happy and really valued and confident when they leave the school. And if they have those qualities, then they will be successful in whatever area that resonates. And to conclude, I just want to do a shout out in terms of what is it like to be a staff member? What are great events that we have with the staff. But the events we have, many of them is about the staff being learners. And we really strive to be globally connected, and we really want to learn as much from other international school educators. So we're really fortunate at ISL that the school provides so many opportunities to learn. And you know, we could talk about conferences, everyone does that, but I think we take it a step further because we constantly open up our school to visitors and just having people come in and we learn from each other. And we also love the idea of highlighting just what other schools are doing and learning from them. So I feel that when it comes to the staff as learners, they embrace the idea of being learners, because if they're learners, then that sets the example for their students. And each one of the activities that the school provides really does that for the staff. So that's kind of like my 2 minutes about the students, the staff, the mindset. I hope you learned a little bit about Luxembourg, and thank you for letting me spotlight the school.
Thank you for traveling across the globe with us to learn more about international schools. To hear more from international educators and learn more about these fantastic institutions, tune in to our live Global Take episodes as we highlight international schools in our School Spotlight section presented by SchoolRubric.
All right, that's just about to do it from Vienna, Austria. A couple plugs first and goodbyes, but thanks to this wonderful international community and the representatives that we have here today. If you want to continue this conversation, please do so on Facebook with SchoolRubric. We've got a wonderful site here for you, GEN Grow, Explore, Nourish, Global Educators Network. Please hit up that address. There's always YouTube, there's always Twitter, but this Facebook group could be something pretty special. So thanks to everyone who's tuned in today. Thank you, Nancy. I can't wait till you and I dialogue a little bit further with ecis.org's MLC. You and I are going to be really blowing that up soon. Yep, Mike, we're neighbors. I can't wait to see you one day. Neighbors, like country neighbors. You and I, let's get together. Let's ride the bike together. And one day I'm going to meet Ryan in person so we can teach design together and do an exchange. But you and I will be jamming through ELMLE, European League of Middle Level Educators, before too long, I am sure. Holly, thank you very much for joining us. Jedi, it is a really neat term. Yeah, thank you. RBS Mathematics in the house. All right, we've had some really good people show up for the goodness, for the online show today. Guys, it's been wonderful. And to our international community, until next time, it's been great here. Jim from SchoolRubric in Vienna, Austria. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for watching SchoolRubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content, such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.